It may be hard to believe, but Mario Kart's been around for nearly 20 years, and even with that, every game manages to add a few new things to freshen the experience. Which is why it's surprising that Mario Kart 7 actually feels like the one that's changed the least, despite some seemingly big additions. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Basically, the game borrows a ton of elements from previous Mario Karts. The trick system from Mario Kart Wii, the coins from the original, and the interface of the Nintendo DS version. Even though it all feels very familiar, it's also the first time we've seen all these features at the same time, which feels sort of new in its own way. And of course, Mario Kart 7 actually does bring some new elements of its own to the table, such as the ability to customize karts and even take to the skies or drive underwater. These are all pretty cool, but none of them actually feel like they impact the game in a major way. Part of it is that flying or driving underwater is very contextual. What I mean is that it always pops up in very specific places. It doesn't really change the game, but it does add a little to it. Same thing for customizing your karts. It's kind of fun at first, but once you find the combination that works for you, you won't really deal with it too often. But again, these are all still good additions, and flying is a ton of fun. The item roster has seen a few new additions too, such as a Fire Flower and Tanuki Tail. Both of these are smart, skill-based additions that add additional depth to the game. Oh, and by the way, the computer players are scary good at using these items too. Like with the Wii version, Mario Kart 7 brings 32 courses to the table, split evenly between new and retro courses. Some of these are instant classics, like DK Jungle, which takes you on a tour through Donkey Kong Country. Unfortunately, they can't all be winners, like Neo Bowser City, which is a boring, featureless course. And the two tracks that take place on Wahoo Island feel very generic, probably because we've seen the island in 3 or 4 other games by now. But they do introduce one cool new feature, the single lap track. Instead of the usual 3 laps, you'll race on just one really long one, and is used to great effect on one very special track late in the game. Okay, so the one thing that matters most in a Mario Kart game are the controls, and Mario Kart 7 absolutely nails it. The game is super responsive, so you have no one else to blame but yourself for your mistakes. Ultimately, with everything Mario Kart 7 borrows from previous installments, it refines rather than redefines the Mario Kart experience. And although while nearly every facet of the game feels familiar, rarely has it felt this good. You simply won't have a better time offline or online, which is great by the way, on the 3DS than with Mario Kart 7. Which is why we're giving it 4.5 raccoon-tailed stars out of 5. Of course, you can play single player too, and there's still enjoyment to be had. Collecting coins to unlock kart parts can be addictive, and trying to perfect your rank in every cup is downright challenging, especially since the computer opponents put up the greatest challenge they ever have. But even with all this, Mario Kart, while still fun by yourself, isn't nearly as enjoyable as it is with friends, which is why the single player gets 3.5 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out GameXplain.com for more Mario Kart coverage.